Mental laws. Throughout the ages, man has attempted to make sense of the universe, to unravel mysteries that have challenged his intellect and seek solutions to seemingly unsolvable problems. In searching for the truth and often questioning it, scholars, thinkers, philosophers, and scientists have immeasurably influenced our world. Their medical breakthroughs, scientific discoveries, physical laws, and mathematical principles have imposed order, coherence, and clarity on what once seemed a random, indiscriminate, and lawless world. The driving force behind these great thinkers was their innate desire to succeed, to focus their minds on a question, and to strive relentlessly until they found an answer. And in their wealth of wisdom, we now find mental laws of personal success and achievement that each of us can use to maximize our own potential. The mental laws are as timeless and immutable as the natural and physical laws that govern the universe. They hold true for everyone that abides by them and are applicable in every area of life. Whenever you see an individual who is not achieving his or her full potential, you see a violation of these mental laws that is both sad and unnecessary. Just as there are basic laws and principles that control our physical world, there are basic laws and principles that control our mental world as well. Before we can hope to operate our human success system, we need to know the basic laws that determine our behavior and affect our very being. In this regard, we have no choice. We cannot bypass these laws in an attempt to negate their application. They are present in all mental workings and operate successfully to bring about the results that you desire. Mental laws are similar to physical laws in one respect. They are in effect 100% of the time. For example, the law of gravity is constantly in force. Our knowledge level or our awareness of the subject of gravity doesn't matter. The law is neutral. What does matter, however, is that the law is in force all of the time, whether it is convenient for us or not. Mental laws also work 100% of the time. A life that is going well is a clear signal that our thoughts and activities are aligned and in harmony with these spiritual principles. Conversely, whenever we experience challenges or moments of despair, we might be violating one or more of these laws, whether we recognize them or not. These mental laws have been known for centuries. Unfortunately, only a few of us understand them or apply them in our daily lives. Deepak Chopra, the physician and author of works on mind-body medicine and human potential, defines laws as the process by which the unmanifest becomes manifest, the observer becomes the observed, the seer becomes the scenery, and the avenue through which the dreamer manifests the dream. Because they are central to our happiness and prosperity, it is essential that we become familiar with these laws and integrate them into everything we do. Law of practice. Practice makes perfect. The familiar proverb embodies one of the great laws of human nature. There is simply no achievement without practice, and the more practice, provided it is done intelligently, the greater the proficiency and the sooner our goals will be realized. This maxim is true in every branch of human endeavor. Success, growth, and achievement are spiritual ideas of excellence. And like any form of excellence or superiority, they require patience, effort, and practice. Excellence means investing in yourself. Excellence means real work. But those who set their sights high and are willing to reach for the laurel wreath in life are those who become great and true champions. They are the special people who ennoble the entire race, those who ultimately accomplish the most and leave an enduring legacy. Excellence requires effort, and effort demands practice. A famous concert pianist applied this principle of repetition to his musical talents. He maintained a rigorous 8-hour-day practice schedule throughout his career. Asked why he persisted in practicing even after he had become world-renowned for his musical excellence, he replied, "If I miss practice for 1 day, I notice. If I miss practice for 2 days, my critics notice. But if I miss practice for 3 days, my audience notices." Practice is the price of proficiency. Law of mental equivalency. Simply defined, the law of mental equivalency states that thoughts objectify themselves. Your thoughts, vividly imagined and charged with emotion, become your reality. Nearly every circumstance in your life, either for better or for worse, has been created by your thinking. Everything that occurs in your life begins in the form of thought. Thoughts become things. They take on a life of their own. First you have them, then they have you. To alter your life requires a transformation of your thinking. Be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. Change your thinking and you will change your life. Thought is the mental equivalent of what you wish to experience in your reality. Law of control. The law of control states that you feel positive about yourself to the degree that you feel you are in control of your life, and conversely, you feel negative about yourself to the degree that you feel you are not in control, or that you are controlled by others to some external force. Your locus of control can be either internal or external. That is, you can feel that you are in charge of your life, happy, free, and fulfilled, or you can feel controlled by others, helpless, trapped, harboring a victim mentality. You will find that the areas in which you experience the greatest peace of mind and satisfaction are those areas in which you feel you have the greatest amount of control. You will also discover that the areas in which you are most unhappy or experience the highest levels of stress are those in which you feel you are not in control. Gaining control of your life requires accepting responsibility for your thoughts and actions. Choose this day who you will serve. In the Old Testament, the book of Leviticus tells of a sacred custom called the escaped goat. When the troubles of the people became too much to bear, a healthy male goat was brought into the temple. In a solemn ceremony, the highest priest of the tribe placed his hands on the goat and recited a list of woes. The problems were then transferred unto the goat, and the animal was set free, taking the troubles of the village away with it. That was nearly 4,000 years ago, but we still use scapegoats today. We frequently use other people or other things in our lives to avoid accepting the responsibility of who we are and what we do. Instead of working on what is going on inside us, we try to blame that which is around us. It is always easier and more convenient to assume the answer lies elsewhere or with others, but this offers us only a false sense of hope. There is no way that you can gain control over your thoughts and actions without accepting full responsibility. In this sense, control and responsibility are necessary companions on the road to positive thinking and living. Responsibility, control, and a sense of freedom go hand in hand. Whenever you see the word responsibility, its true meaning is synonymous with freedom. In other words, control equals responsibility equals freedom. Ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. Regardless of the depth of your conviction or the height of your logic, it is impossible for any individual, group, or people to be free without accepting total responsibility for their lives. Perhaps an effective mental conditioner would be to verbally affirm the following. Today, I accept responsibility for my life. I direct the law of control to produce a new quality of life. I allow myself no regrets about the past. My consciousness is open to the present. Therefore, I only express goodwill and perfect harmony. These ideas are instantly reflected back into my experience. I am happy living my life. Failure to accept full responsibility for your thinking will bring continued frustration and unhappiness. The law of control is essential in maintaining a high level of energy, peace of mind, self-confidence, and positive emotions. Success lies in waiting for those who master this law. Control begins with your thoughts, the only thing over which you do have complete control. Make sure they are rock solid. Law of expectation. The law of expectation states that whatever you expect with confidence becomes your own self-fulfilling prophecy. This means that what you get is not necessarily what you want in life, but what you expect. Your expectations exert a powerful influence that causes people to behave and situations to work out as you anticipated. Successful men and women have an attitude of confident, positive expectancy. They expect to be successful. They expect to reach their objectives. They expect to win, and they anticipate achievement as a reward for their creativity. Seldom are they disappointed. There's a power in enthusiastic expectation to an ideal. What are hardships, slander, ridicule, persecution, and toil to a soul throbbing with the expectation of mastering a purpose? The desire for success and the expectation for failure rarely reside in the same breast. Anger begets anger, and hate, hate. Expect success and forget the rest. Clarence Smith and Edward Lewis are not the men they thought they would be. Unforeseen changes converged on them from every side, but they rode them out by adhering to the law of expectation. In the late 1960s, the two met in Manhattan, almost by accident. At the time, both had clearly defined careers. Lewis was a financial planner for Citibank, and Smith sold insurance for Prudential. Smith sensed Lewis was a prime prospect for his company's many services and pitched him over lunch. Lewis said the timing was wrong, but promised to stay in touch. From that first encounter, a friendship grew that would later develop into a relationship of enormous importance. In due course, the two would meet again, this time at a Harlem seminar sponsored by Shearson Hamill in the latter part of 1968. The brokerage firm invited a cross-section of black professionals to explore ideas for possible businesses. Among those present were Lewis and Smith, Cecil Hollingsworth, a printer, and Jonathan Blount, an energetic 24-year-old ad salesman for Bell Telephone. Within this forum, these would-be capitalists fumbled with a number of ideas, none of which seemed to stick. Blount took center stage when he shared a conversation he had had with his foster mother a few months before. "Why isn't there a magazine for black women?" she had asked. At the time, Blount shrugged his shoulders, and his mother either lost interest or lost track of her idea. But the young man asked the question again, this time to a group of entrepreneurial upstarts. Hoping for a more favorable response, he supplemented his query with sparsely documented data. "What do you think?" Smith asked Lewis as they left the meeting. Lewis shook his head and grabbed his coat. "It makes sense," he answered. What he thought was that it was all very exciting, that maybe, just maybe, this seed of an idea could take root. But what he really thought was that he finally saw a way for him to parlay his fundraising skills and tenacity into something worthwhile, a way in which he could make a difference. He saw a path in which he could march to his own music. Smith also felt the magic in the moment. Ironically, his career was finally on track. He was 35 years old, earning $30,000 a year as a top-notch salesman of insurance. He had a handsome family and a cozy suburban home. By any definition of success, Smith had made it. But his lifestyle also meant a slide into obscurity. Smith had come to the point where he dared to try his wings for something new. He felt one step closer after that fateful meeting. Lewis and Smith had the itch. They returned to their jobs silently renewed and began to chase their dreams. Almost indignantly, the question struck their collective nerves. Why wasn't there a magazine for Black women? In 1969, the itch turned into a rash. Lewis and Smith met with Blount and Hollingsworth to discuss the concept further. Each seemed sincere and willing to take the leap into entrepreneurship. Together, they formed a partnership, the Hollingsworth Group, a name taken from stationary Cecil Hollingsworth had left over from his a name taken from stationary Cecil Hollingsworth had left over from his graphic consulting firm. A banker proposed, and the group concurred, that it would be wise for them to try to piece together what little data they could find on Black readership and Black female consumer preference. When all was said and done, the four brash young men with no publishing experience found themselves in agreement on one key point. The magazine industry, virtually unchanged since the Depression, was about to take on a new group of fastly emerging consumers, women of color, of varying ages who believed in self-development. The industry was about to confront a new magazine responding to the desires of this overlooked market. What the group found was a red carpet to their future. It soon became apparent, at least to Lewis and Smith, that they could no longer continue their jobs and still push their idea forward. Each spent all his time and effort entirely on spec, with no assurance the concept would fly. Besides investing their own money, they poured in staggering amounts of their most cherished capital, hope and positive expectation, and continued to lean into their dream. Although Lewis and Smith were committed to leaving corporate America, leaving the security of a job was a step that some of their partners could not take. When asked to cross the bridge of faith, the Hollingsworth Group was pared down to a party of two. The result was a new publication, Essence, the first lifestyle magazine for Black women. With an initial printing of 150,000 copies, the magazine made its debut in May 1970. Today, Lewis and Smith jointly conduct the affairs of one of Black America's top 20 privately owned companies. However, the birth of any magazine is always a struggle against the odds, and Essence was no exception. Warned that any special interest venture would have at best a shaky future, the two mavericks were bent on making the project a success. As you can imagine, it was not easy then, nor is it easy now, Lewis says. We were undercapitalized and forced to operate on a tight budget. But through it all, we persevered, never losing our sense of mission. During those periods when he felt overburdened, he'd recite his mother's word. The road to freedom is rocky and steep. But Clarence Smith touched upon a key principle of achievement as he discussed the components of success. From our initial projections, we thought that our break-even point would be 3 years. But hell, we were in business 6 years before we ever made a profit. With the first year alone, there were at least 4 different times I thought we might go under. Experts told us that we didn't have a chance. The only thing that kept us going was that we expected success. As you read these lines, keep in mind the basic crux of the law of expectation. Whatever you expect with confidence becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Success is not difficult to achieve once you make practical use of positive expectancy. As this story points out, Lewis and Smith subconsciously triggered this law by confidently expecting the realization of their goals. Anyone with sufficient initiative and ability can duplicate the fortunes of these achievers if he or she adheres to the fundamental requirements of this principle. Both failure and mistakes can be converted into assets of priceless value when you expect to succeed. Law of reciprocity. All relationships are based upon the law of reciprocity. This law states that people are internally driven to reciprocate for anything done either to them or for them. Friends and associates will be willing to help you achieve your goals only when you have demonstrated a willingness to help others achieve their goals. In other words, people don't care about you until they know how much you care about them. The most successful men and women in our society are those who have helped the greatest number of people achieve their objectives. He that will be great among you, let him serve. They build a vast reservoir of goodwill, in turn will be compensated for having aided others. For example, the direction of Joe Dudley's life was drastically altered when he mastered this law. Living under the thumb of poverty for the majority of his life, Dudley turned his focus to supporting others. As a result, he built a multi-million-dollar hair care business in the process. Today, he instructs others that service will always be a welcome commodity. You can have anything that you want, he proclaims, if you only help enough people to get what they want. Your returns in life are the results of your contributions to others. Shakespeare wrote, "The fragrance of the rose lingers on the hand that casts it." If you give hard work, helpfulness, and honesty, you will receive riches, rewards, and the respect of others. Under this law, you and you only will determine just how much you will receive. Law of habit. Virtually everything we do is the result of our habits. You are a bundle of habits. The way you walk, talk, think, act, and deal with the important people in your life is largely habitual. We are creatures of habit. Life is habit, a succession of unconscious responses that become more or less automatic. Since your thinking and behavior are subject to the same principle, your habits will make or break you. Habits can be either stepping stones or roadblocks to success or failure, happiness or unhappiness. In the absence of an outside force or a definitive decision on your part, you will continue to act in accordance with these patterns ad infinitum. You'll work in the same job, associate with the same people, eat the same foods, take the same route to work, and engage in the same activities for the remainder of your life. Changing habits that are no longer consistent with your objectives will be one of the most challenging steps that you will ever take. Good habits are hard to form but easy to live with, and bad habits are easy to form but hard to live with. The toughest things to change are bad habits that run counter to the goals that you want to achieve. If a habit isn't helpful, it is hurtful. If a habit is not leading you towards success, it's probably leading you to failure. Habits aren't instincts. They are acquired reactions. They don't just happen. They are caused. Once you've determined the original cause of a habit, it is within your power to either accept or reject it. It takes approximately 3 to 4 weeks to break a habit. It takes the same amount of time to develop a new one. After this brief period, the habit becomes rooted. In other words, an automatic response. Remember, we first form habits, then habits form us. In the individual drive toward achievement, if we do not consciously form good habits, we will unconsciously form bad ones. Successful men and women have simply formed the habit of doing things that failures will not do. It is just as easy to form the habit of succeeding as it is to succumb to the habit of failure. Perhaps now is the appropriate time to ask, what habits would I like to change or alter? Law of forgiveness. The vital importance of forgiveness may not be obvious at first, but you may be sure that it is not by chance that every great spiritual teacher has insisted strongly upon it. The law of forgiveness states that you are mentally healthy to the degree that you can freely forgive and forget offenses done against you. You must forgive injustices, not just in words, but in your heart. This is required not for someone else's sake, but for yours. Failure to carry out this basic act gives control of your life to those whom you have judged to have wronged you. Forgiveness means changing any misperceptions. When we forgive another for anything that he or she may have done to us, we are really saying, I no longer give you the power to control who I am, how I think, and how I will behave in the future. I take full responsibility for my life. Forgiveness is the most liberating act of life. The inability to forgive lies at the root of all negative emotions. Resentment, condemnation, hatred, and guilt. Medical science has proved that holding a grudge or harboring anger toward those you feel have hurt you is a major cause of illness. To fulfill your potential, to develop your full spiritual capacity, you must let go and cut the cord to anger and resentment. You must forgive. Nearly 50 years ago, Dr. Frederick Loomis, an old country physician, wrote a short but memorable article entitled The Best Medicine. Though the author died a short time after publishing his moving piece, he still lives on in the minds of thousands of people. Dr. Loomis wrote, "It's but little good you'll do watering last year's crops." Yet that's exactly what I've seen hundreds of my patients do over the past 25 years, watering last year's crops. Watering with freely flowing tears things of the irrevocable past. Not the bittersweet memories of loved ones, but things done which should not have been done, and things left undone which should have been done. Each of us can lighten our own load by forgiving or performing some small deed for someone else. In this manner, we can make the past recede, as the present and future will again take on their true challenge and perspective. As a doctor, I've seen it tried many times, and nearly always it's been a far more successful prescription than anything I could have ordered from the drugstore. One of the most difficult things for any individual to do is to forget his or her past mistakes or the mistakes of others, to let bygones be bygone. This small stroke of maturity is easy to say, but difficult to do. We all know people who sit and play with the tragedies of the past, like children in a sandbox, refusing to forgive those who have wronged them in any way. They should instead think long and hard on the words of Shakespeare. Things without remedy should not be without regard. Things without remedy should be without regard. In other words, what is done is done. It's time to forgive and forget. It's time to turn to the future with the wisdom brought by past pain and begin to consider the needs and desires of our fellow man. One of the most memorable covers of a national magazine appeared nearly 2 years ago. It was a picture of Nelson Mandela embracing F.W. de Klerk, South African president, the man and the symbol of the unjust society that incarcerated him for 27 years of his life. That portrait of forgiveness left a lasting impression on me. 30 years prior, that same picture was drawn featuring Malcolm X, the famed Muslim minister, after he had made his last pilgrimage to the Holy Land. Malcolm X returned a new man, completely transformed. People who we consider reverent or spiritual or role models of decency are always able to forgive without qualification or doubt. They do not cloud their consciousness with thoughts of anger or vengeance directed toward those who have attempted to wrong them. Rather, they provide society with a model of forgiveness that we can use in our daily lives. To be forgiven, we must forgive. Forgiving brings forgiveness. Failure to forgive creates hell for the unforgiver, not the unforgiven. Practice forgiveness. It is the greatest act. I am your constant companion. I am your greatest helper or heaviest burden. I will push you onward or drag you down to failure. I am completely at your command. Half the things you do, you might just as well turn over to me, and I will be able to do them quickly and correctly. I am easily managed. You must merely be firm with me. Show me exactly how you want something done, and after a few lessons, I will do it automatically. I am the servant of all great men, and alas, of all failures as well. Those who are great, I have made great. Those who are failures, I have made failures. I am not a machine, though I work with all the precision of a machine plus the intelligence of a man. You may run me for profit or run me for ruin. It makes no difference to me. Take me, train me, be firm with me, and I will place the world at your feet. Be easy with me, and I will destroy you. Who am I? I am habit. Anonymous. These mental laws are the most powerful forces ever discovered. Each law enables you to begin unlocking the powers of your subconscious mind. Use these principles in a positive and systematic way. In any attempt to improve your current circumstances, never allow yourself to drift from those time-proven principles that have flowed from generation to generation in a steady stream to serve as the fundamentals for finding, developing, and living the good life. In the simplest terms, success begins by exercising your power of choice to take direct control over your thoughts. By disciplining yourself to think and talk and act in accordance with these mental laws, you begin to live life on purpose. You begin to develop what writer and lecturer Brian Tracy terms a sense of destiny, which is the hallmark of true success.